Hey everyone, what's going on? Back with a new video. Today we are diving into an instant classic, as you can tell by the thumbnail. In this video we will be dissecting and obviously picking through the book, one of Stephen King's most famous books to this day, and that would be The Shining. Now, The Shining is a gothic horror novel that was published in 1977. This is his third published book, and again, like I mentioned, it is still an instant classic to this day. Now, a lot of people might reference back to like in 1980 when the movie came out, so I'm not spending the whole time talking about the adaptation because again, it's a hit or miss with some of you. I enjoyed it, but again, it wasn't my all-time favorite adaptation of Stephen King's work. But the cast of characters are pretty decent, obviously, with Jack Nicholson and then again the late great Shelley Duvall. Those characters again made this kind of good, and then obviously throughout the story line of the movie, you would have to see it just to kind of relate it to the book. But we are going to be diving into the book instead of the movie, and I like to mention before we dive into the summary and talk about the characters and what I really enjoyed about this book, Dr. Sleep is the sequel to The Shining. If you have not seen, or obviously I should say, if you have not read Dr. Sleep, again, you must read The Shining first, and then Dr. Sleep follows it after. It's years and years later when Stephen King obviously writes Dr. Sleep, but I enjoyed Dr. Sleep as well, but except Stephen King's, The Shining, with how famous and how iconic the book is, it's still on my top 10 Stephen King list, and if you haven't checked out the video, I will leave the link in the description below, along with my Stephen King tier list, which I always reference back to once we talk about Stephen King books. So as we were talking about, the Torrance family, Jack Torrance, he is the author. He used to be an ex-teacher, again, so he lost his job, and then it talks about the details on how he lost a job throughout the story, so I will leave that to you to find out. And then his wife Wendy and his son Danny come along, obviously, because he is going to be the caretaker for the Overlook Hotel, which is in Boulder, Colorado, if I'm mistaken. Let me know in the comments below, but I know it's in Colorado. So as Jack is interviewed for the caretaking job, he is going through, obviously, the history of the hotel. He takes a tour with the hotel manager, obviously, to see the different parts of the hotel. He's going through, and then he's obviously discussing, his background. Throughout the story, Jack is going to find the mysteries that are kind of unveiled throughout the hotel and the history that's behind it, which is a lot darker than, obviously, it's presented to him, because any hotel manager is probably not going to come right up to him and say, there's a lot of things at a hotel you probably should know.
You serious?
And then who would want to work there after? But it's an interesting twist to the story. It leads very well in. This is a very good, fast-paced book, in my opinion. Again, let me know what you think about The Shining for those who love it. And throughout the story, he gets the process. He moves his family into the hotel, and then obviously once everyone is gone, again, the winter seasons up in Colorado and where the Overlook Hotel is tremendously bad. Again, the roads are always going to be closed. So basically, they are stuck up there with plenty of food to last, where obviously everyone's going to start coming back and get ready for the spring and the summer for the hotel. So one of Jack's biggest demons while he's going through the Overlook Hotel, again, he is about 5 or 6 months sober. Again, he was going through a very hard time with alcoholism. And again, he's kind of, trying to break the habit, kind of stay on the wagon and not to fall off it. But again, this hotel, like I mentioned, it is full of mystery and again, full of, I don't want to say demonic stuff, but there's entities and just the feeling of, not safe in the hotel, which that leads into obviously the son, Danny Torrance, who has what's called The Shining. It's a gift. So before everyone leaves the hotel, before obviously Jack looks over it with his family, so Jack, Wendy, and Danny meet up with the cook of the Overlook Hotel, whose name's Dick Halloran. So Dick Halloran actually has this little one-on-one talk with Danny, just privately, and then he also finds out that Danny obviously has The Shining, which vice versa, Danny finds out that Dick is also have that special Shining gift. So again, that's something they relate to. It's a very strong bond. So as we fast forward, like I mentioned, Danny has this gift. He is unveiling very, very strange occurrences that happened in the hotel. So it's kind of like I mentioned, like demons, but like entities that are going throughout the hotel. This famous room, and it's 217. I'm not going to say what it is. And then kind of the bummer part about this is in the movie, it's not spoiling anything, it's just a difference, is in the movie they put 237 instead of 217. I don't know why they did a difference of that, but anywho, inside that room there is something that is very, very traumatizing. I will leave that for you to figure out though. As Danny is freely exploring the hotel, you know, he's walking around, he's curious. He's a 5-year-old boy, so he's very curious to figure out, obviously they're gonna be staying up there for months and months, so he has to try to preoccupy his time. So like I mentioned, running into a lot of, you know, very strange occurrences, very scary and kind of traumatic for, especially for a 5-year-old boy. As that is going and that's progressing, Jack is trying to write. He is an author, or aspiring author, I should mention, and he is writing a story. And as he's writing this story, his wife, Wendy, you know, she does what she does as throughout the story. But I really enjoyed how King kind of progressed through the story, because you start off like it's just a loving family, and then this Overlook Hotel, there is something about it that starts to change the people who, again, either stay in it, work in it, or just any part of the Overlook Hotel. So as you progress through the story, things start to get obviously worse because they're not going to get better. And once we go through the story, we're going to figure out and obviously see that the very bond between Jack, basically Jack, Wendy, and Danny, but Jack towards Danny and Wendy start to change in a negative fashion. Again, he's kind of talking with certain demons that are floating around in the Overlook Hotel. What I love about King for the book and not the movie is, in the book, they focus really on the family aspect. It really focuses on Jack and how he, you know, was battling with his demons in his past and trying to, again, make that bond better with Danny, his son, and then obviously his wife, Wendy. So I really love the focus on that in the book. It's one of my favorite parts about this book. Stephen King was actually very adamant about his passion for writing this book.
What about Jack Nicholson in The Shining? Were you pleased with that?
I thought he did a wonderful job in Shining. Enjoyed it very much.
How did you feel about the movie itself?
Well, I feel both ways. I got to see it 4 times because of commitments one place and another. And there are an awful lot of things about that movie that I think are flawless and beautiful and just marvelous. And then there are other times when I feel as though I'd given Stanley Kubrick a live grenade and he heroically threw his body on it.
And for those who don't know, that he was so disgusted by the Shining adaptation in 1980 that he actually bought the rights back to the movie because it was that bad to him. I agree to some fashion, but again, I'm a big Jack fan, so I really enjoyed his part of Jack Torrance, which that was my favorite part about it. Other than that, I'm kind of on King's side with it. The adaptations, and again, I promised I wasn't going to talk about adaptations, but when we're comparing an adaptation to the novel, it just gets away from the story in this way, and there's certain, you know, similarities to it, but like I mentioned, the rooms were different. You know, instead of 217 in the book, it's 237 or something like that in the movie, and it's just like silly stuff like that, but there's more and more differences to it as well, which, side note, for those who watched the new Salem's Lot adaptation, and if you enjoyed it very much, I must highly disagree with you because I thought that was an atrocious and just fast-paced, in a bad way, adaptation of Salem's Lot. But let's dive back into The Shining. And as we get to the end of the story, I will say that the first time I saw the movie adaptation, I had seen it before the book, but that was like ages ago. Obviously, once I got around to reading the book, I noticed that the biggest change was mainly, well, there are a lot of changes, but biggest change was the ending of The Shining between the book and the movie. Again, the book, so much better. The way King ended the story was amazing. It had the anticipation throughout the whole book, and then as soon as it obviously went down to the following action into the ending of the story, it all came together, and again, it ended with a bang. Pun intended, maybe, maybe not. But with the movie, yeah, I can't say the same. King is kind of notorious for starting off so good with his books, and then at the ending, he kind of like, you know, shits the bed, if you want to say. But this one was not the case for the book. Again, I highly recommend you go out, check The Shining out, library, buy it. If you ask anyone who's ever read The Shining, they will probably tell you that it's one of their favorite Stephen King books. All right, like I mentioned, always top 10 of mine. But again, you will have to figure out that for yourself. Again, the whole transition through the book, King did a masterful job of it. The characters, you want to relate to the characters. You want to feel for, obviously, Danny, you know, this kid who's going through a traumatizing state with his dad. And then obviously Wendy, the mother and the wife, she's there. She wants to do everything she can for Danny. Again, there's a very, very strong family bond throughout the story. And then that's what I loved, again, most about this book. On my tier list, I gave this to it. With it being in my top 10, it is obviously magnificent, amazing. Again, those books that are top tier, The Shining is one of them. And again, I highly recommend you go read The Shining. I love this cover too. For the life of me, I can't remember who sent this to me off my wish list on Amazon, but I thank you. If you are watching this, thank you very much. And again, it's just a sweet, sweet cover. The red rum, for those who don't know the red rum, you'll find out more about it, obviously, in the story. But if you have not read it, I highly recommend it. I give this 5 stars. Again, I've been having a lot of back-to-back 5 stars, I believe. So yeah, so Carrie, 5 stars. Salem's Lot, 5 stars. And now The Shining, 5 stars. So again, read The Shining first. Again, you will really enjoy it. I highly recommend it. Like I say, like a broken record. And then after you read The Shining, that's when you should kind of dive in. If you're not reading chronologically like I am, like on these journeys I'm doing with Stephen King, then you can read Dr. Sleep right after The Shining, because again, it is the sequel to it. All right, everyone, that is it. Thank you for listening. Again, each subscriber that subscribes, again, I am very, very grateful for you. I want everyone to reach out. I keep mentioning I'm gonna go live, and I swear I'm going to one of these days. I really want to soon, because I want to interact with all my subscribers, all my friends, people that love to talk about books, music. Again, I need to upload one of these music reaction videos. I do have the list. It's right down here. I need to get one of those going too as well. But again, I'm with this journey. I'm trying to focus. And again, with teaching, kind of busy. So, and then I'm going to be also coaching soon here in the fall. So it's going to be really, really interesting and really fun. So again, I thank you all very much. Keep spreading the word of my channel. And like I always say, my friends, please read your book cover to cover. We'll see y'all later.